today I want to focus on practice, because this is something that's very important to me. This is something that I am highly invested in practice, in learning, developing, teaching physical, energetic, spiritual practices that support healing, transformation, connection, growth in all regards. And we know the saying that you teach what you most need to know. And so definitely this is the case for me. I know that as I went through my spiritual awakening, I was completely knocked out of any kind of reality for quite a while. And I was very ungrounded. I experienced a lot of energetic shifts and spiritual openings. And those created a lot of instability in my body and in my energy body, in my physical body, and in my psyche, and caused a lot of processing to come up, but also just a lot of ungroundedness and hypersensitivity to energy, to emotions, to crowds, to everything. And I went through a long process of learning, studying, training in how to be grounded and the practices that I needed in order to help to clear trauma, to clear emotional debris, to be able to come to a level of mastery within my own system, to understand what the natural tendencies of my own system were in regards to shamanic work, energy healing work, and then to understand how those worked and to train in ways to translate that more effectively, efficiently, and so on. So this has been a long, long road for me, and one that continues still. I'm still super devoted to practices. I teach practices with all my clients. I teach practices in all my programs. Right now we're in Healer's Process. There's practices for every module. Next coming up will be Open Your Channel. There are practices, of course, in channeling work so that we can remain safe, healthy, grounded inside of our spiritual experiences and the things that we're tapping into and the natural ways that our energy bodies and so on are engaging with the world. So, in the realm of practice, being someone who teaches practice and being someone who teaches practice, not from the place of, I'm so amazing, I've always had my shit together and I've always been so great at practice and it's such a natural thing for me. No, coming from the place of, I really don't like this often. This is really challenging for me. I am, inconsistent, unfocused, flopping about on the floor, what other people do, and they do a practice, and they get sort of a mild result or something. I do a practice and it becomes this big dramatic thing. So it's my past has been not like I am the master of practice, and so listen to me. I am coming from the place of, I have needed to cultivate practice at such a deep level because of instability, ungroundedness, inability to control or master some of my natural shamanic and healing gifts and channeling gifts and these things, being too open, too fast, moving too much energy, getting my energy moving not in the best way, having openings that didn't serve me, being really challenged. And being challenged by practice, being challenged by dedication, devotion, commitment, dailiness, doing the same thing over and over, all of these things. And so I wanted to drop in with you guys today because it's important to understand and realize that we all have those struggles, that devotion and dedication, commitment to our practices, to our spiritual, energetic, physical practices. And so this might be physical practices, moving the body, working with breath, working with meditation and stillness, working with focusing energy in the body, moving energy in the body, qigong, your yoga practice, whatever your practices are that you're developing and learning. And they're necessary, they're important, they're vital. You can't expect yourself to have shifts in consciousness, to be able to handle upgrades in your energy, to be able to really change and heal and grow without having some practices that you're working with yourself alone, not just in a group container, but also alone in your home, working to move and clear energy, to ground, to source, to understand the connection to the below, to the above, to be able to move energy consciously through the body, and to be able to have focused attention and awareness, so that these are the pieces that expand consciousness, whether it's through movement or stillness, or some combination of external movement and internal stillness, or external stillness, internal movement, or all stillness, or all movement. And so these are some of the fundamentals of when we look at Qigong practice. And this is something I'm very passionate about. Practice never stops evolving. That's an important thing to understand. I'm currently in training, in a 7-year training to become a Taoist priest. And that is a lot of practice. It's a lot about physical, energetic practice, internal alchemy practice, mystical practice, meditation practice. And it's hard to keep up sometimes. There's a lot coming at me and there's a lot to do. And just know that this is a natural tendency. So one of the main things that I'm here to drop in about is the fact that over and over and over again in my clients and my students, what I see and hear a lot of is this resonating around guilt and shame and feeling bad, self-hatred, just really shitting on ourselves for not doing the practice every day, or not doing it long enough, or not doing it right, not getting the effect that we think that we should be getting, not understanding it yet, being unfocused, undedicated, uncommitted. So many people show up with, I'm inconsistent. I'm not committed enough. I don't do enough. I'm not enough. And really coming down to that core essence of I'm not enough. So then what's happening is the engagement with the practice process, the engagement with the daily routine of practice comes back to feeding that story of I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, I don't matter. All of these things that we have, these really deep subconscious beliefs about ourselves that I am horrible. I'm a horrible person. I'm a bad person. I am not good at this or that. So we have these beliefs, and then we start engaging with the practice for whatever reason that you're engaging with the practice. And then it's very tricky, right? Our slippery little ego gets in there and somehow figures out that it can actually use the thing that we're seeking as a source and a portal toward higher consciousness and illumination and healing. It can use this very thing to beat the shit out of us, make us feel bad about ourselves, tear us up inside, leave us tossing and turning and hating ourselves. So you can see when we break it down a little bit how funny it is, but also how tragic it is, because then we're engaging with this thing that's supposed to be liberating. It's supposed to be about freedom. And, I just want to say liberation. It's about liberation in its essence. It's about connecting to the divine, to the pure essence of all life and its ability to move through us and to live through us. And we use it to shame ourselves and to feel guilty and to feel bad and to rip ourselves apart. So stop doing that, because when we do that, generally a few things happen. We stop engaging with the practice altogether, because we start linking them together. We start linking feeling bad about ourselves with our practice, and we start this sort of looping thing around the practice, which creates more tension internally, which causes us to not want to engage with the practice, and so on. And then we're also sort of feeding this belief system and the energy of the belief into the practice itself. So we might be coming from that place of, I'm such a loser and I suck and I don't do the practice. So I feel really guilty. And so I'm going to go do the practice. And then we go do the practice. But what is the energy of the practice now? Well, the energy of the practice is, I hate myself and I'm guilty and I'm full of shame and I really actually suck, but I'm only doing this because I should, and I should be dedicated and I should be committed and I should do the practice. So I'm going to should myself into this. And then the practice is then infused with this energy that is actually the thing that we're trying to liberate ourselves from. So this can create a lot of, it's just like you're going to get more of that, right? Because the practice is working on the subtle levels. It's working with energy. It's working with the spiritual levels. And so now that energy that you're cultivating and moving through your system, it's now moving through that filter of shame and guilt and self-hatred. And so it's expanding that within the field and within the body. And it's continuing to program that same energy into you, which is why over time we're like, why am I still so bad at this? Why do I still suck so much? Why am I still so uncommitted? I know all these practices. I know all the benefits. I've gotten results, and yet still here I am. Well, because you've infused the practice with this energy. So what do? Okay, so there's some different things you can do. You can change the energy, right? You change where you're starting from, because where you're starting from is where you're going. So change that, change yourself in that moment. Come from a higher place. And that higher place is excitement and joy and curiosity and wonder and interest and wow, what could happen today? I don't know. Instead of, well, I have this practice and these are the steps and these are the rules and this is how it goes and blah. But what is inspiring about it? What is potential? What's the creative life force behind it? And to build that energy within yourself, to come from a place of a grateful heart for whatever it is you have, to take a moment before you start your practice. Like, say you're like, oh gosh, I feel like shit, should do the practice. And your choice at that moment is either don't do the practice or do the practice. And if you do the practice and then you go into the practice and you're like, okay, here I go, I'm gonna do the practice, I feel like shit and blah, I hate myself. Okay, so take a moment, stop right there, come back to your heart, breathe into your heart, come back to gratitude, come back to whatever you can cultivate around joy, whatever you can cultivate around your curiosity, around your the playfulness, right? Childlike wonder. Where can you cultivate that? Come from a place that feels like that, to you smile into this experience of the amazing potential that you have to create in this moment, in this practice, and the gratitude for everything that you have and everything that you are, and then come from that place. And then your practice is going to be infused with gratitude and love and potential and creativity, and it's going to be more effective and more rewarding. Number one. So that's a big thing that I wanted to talk about. And this has been something that I've been learning myself. I know that I wasn't at this level of consciousness and I wasn't utilizing this tool enough for a while. And it really is a shift. Another thing around practice is that, so there's the shame and the guilt, and then a lot of times where the shame and the guilt comes from is that we, especially, in our Western society, we are not actually very in tune with nature. And so we shame and guilt ourselves because our practice doesn't look like the same thing every day. Like we think, okay, well, my practice should look like that I get up and I go for a run and I do this breath work and then I do this yoga and then I do this, meditation. And I spend 2 hours in the practice space in the morning. And then if we don't accomplish that, we hate ourselves and we beat ourselves up. Does anybody do that? Have you ever done that and been like, oh, well, it's just not enough. I didn't do enough. I'm just not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I hear this over and over. I'm just not doing enough. And this comes from our childhoods where a lot of us, if we were laying down or reading a book or just not engaging in some kind of way, we were told we were lazy and we weren't, why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you doing? And we've been trained to do all day long. And so we think that all year long, we should be doing the same practices. Our practice should look the same all year long. And this is a huge fallacy because as you do your practice, one of the things that's happening is hopefully you are connecting to the earth, to the celestial bodies, to nature, to the elements, to the frequencies surrounding you, where you're becoming more attuned, more sensitive. This is the natural thing that will happen if you're doing any kind of a physical, energetic, spiritual practice, meditations, and etc. So if you're attuning more to nature, then your body and your practices will naturally seek to find that attunement. They will want to be in presence with that attunement. So right now it is, what is it? It's December already, okay? So in December, people are often struggling in December. There's a lot of depression in December. There's a lot of anxiety. And it's not just because you have to go hang out with your family. It's because the natural cycle of the season of the winter is one of going quiet, internal, and still. It is the element of water. It is in the organs of the kidneys and the bladder. It's very watery and dark and deep. And there's a stillness about it. And it is about rejuvenation and nourishment, nourishing the body and the life force. And our life force is coming from our kidneys. We need these kidneys to be in this place of regeneration and nurturing and receiving. And that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. But we're running around, we're shopping, we're going to parties, we're drinking alcohol, right? We're doing all the things that we shouldn't necessarily be doing when we're super attuned with nature. And then we're expecting our bodies to do things like, well, I should be out running and I should be doing hot yoga and I should be pushing myself to perform this practice instead of, what do I really need right now? What is going to be in alignment with the season that I'm in so that I'm receiving the most of this frequency? I'm receiving the most of this elemental energy that's available to me right now. And the elemental energy available to you right now is a cold, contractive, deep, still, dark, watery energy. So right now, you might not feel like doing the things that you wanted to do in August. You might not want to do what you will want to do in May. That is natural and normal. So right now, you might instead get up in the morning, sit in your bed, be all cozy, comfy, and yummy, and just meditate. Be in stillness. Find your breath. Just be present with yourself. And you might journal, or you might do mantra work. It's really great to do in the winter. I find I like to do mantra work in the winter. And that can be very, very nourishing. You might want to do more yin yoga, restorative yoga. go to do a float tank. So these are all practices that you engage with that are in alignment with the season, and that will give you a lot of what you need. Yet we tend to shame, guilt, blame ourselves if we're not showing up in the same way that we were in July. So I want you to look at your practice and like, what does it look like? And how could you, maybe it wants to change right now and it wants to shift. It wants to be different. It doesn't want to be super active and engaging and really intense. Save that for the spring, and you can start ramping it up and doing more stretching and movement and getting the cardio starting to go and stuff like that, to let yourself be in the natural cycle. So that's the other thing I wanted to drop in on practice. It's really important. So does anybody do this? Does anybody just like have this problem and sort of beat themselves up over their experience inside their practice? I think we all do. So I just want to see if there's anything here that I wanted to talk about. I know I made notes at some point. Well, whatever. So also, let's see, what else is there about the practice that we want to talk about? Also, so you might change your practice from day to day because it's supposed to be this evolving, creative experience. It's not a stagnant thing. And it needs to evolve because you evolve, you change, you grow. You need to bring in new tools. You need to have new things coming in, finding new teachers, engaging in new practices. Because if you just do the same exact practice for years and years, you're not getting the full benefit of the possibility of what's the next level, what's the next stage of your evolution within your practice realm. And also on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to feel like doing the exact same thing every single day. And that's normal and natural. You're going to also have your own personal cycles of energy, especially if men have their own monthly cycle as well. So when we're looking at that monthly cycle, you're going to have a natural arc of when you are more expressive and outward and engaging with a higher level of energy, and when you're also coming in and inward and are seeking to have more cultivation of stillness. So understanding your own personal cycles is also important so that you're not beating the shit out of yourself over your practice. And also, the practices are designed to do things. They're not there just arbitrary for no reason. We do this breath and this thing and this movement and this energy stuff. No, they do something. So you will also likely need, if you're doing some good practice, days to integrate your practice, days maybe that you don't do anything. Days that you then switch and do something like just a meditation or quiet stillness, taking a bath, reading spiritual texts, prayer, doing a little ritual for yourself. If you're moving through some kind of energy, you're doing some healing work on yourself, and you're doing some practices that are opening up some energy. They're moving energy and emotions. You might need to go lay in the tub and have a good cry, and that's your practice for the day. You might need to just be still. You might need to journal about what's coming up for you so that you can help to keep the energy moving and processing, but you're not like scraping it and bugging it and being mean to it, right? You're not beating the shit out of yourself in your practice. So in the midst of that, right, you have to then acknowledge what it is the practice is doing, why you're doing it, and then taking care of yourself inside of that experience, because you might be moving a lot of energy. You might not really be aware of the extent of the deep emotional energy or psychic energy that you are opening, unlocking, moving, shifting around, doing really deep healing work for yourself inside of these practices that might seem really simple or basic. Sometimes the more simple and basic a practice is, the more of a really strong effect that it can have on you. And then you might need to take a day off and do something super chill and relaxed and not do a lot. You might need to shift and change something. It might need to be like a shift and change something to up and more active, or downgrade, less active, more reflective, more nurturing. Personally, I saw this within my own practice this week, when I was doing a lot of these Taoist meditations, and really a lot of work in the upper centers, and then bringing that energy into the body and connecting to Tao, and bringing that energy in the body, moving it through the organs, working with energy balls, like doing a lot of this work, which is basically bringing a lot of high frequency energy into the system, into the organs, which hold energy, emotions, repressed stuff, old things. And it's bringing a lot of light. It's moving a lot of energy through the whole system. So within that, I got up one day and was like, oh, wow, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety in my heart. There's stuff coming up. I don't really even know what it is. And the tendency at that moment is to put a name and a face on it and to make it about something. But the encouragement is to allow it to just be energy that's moving, and not make it about a story, not make it about your partner, which was where I was. I was like, oh, it's just, we're not making it about another person, not make it about your business or whatever, right? We want to make it about something when it's really just energy moving. Now, was the best thing for me that day when that was there to continue to do this same meditation and to continue to flood the system with the same frequency? Well, yes, but what I really needed a lot more of that day to add into the practice was more purging, purifying, releasing, moving some of the energy that was coming up, that was being sort of wrung out of the system. I needed to do more practice that was more physical, more breath, more movement, more sound, moving some of the energy that was coming up for me so that it wasn't so uncomfortable. Because when we do practices, stuff will come up because we're moving things around, and we will feel uncomfortable. And we want to make that uncomfortable feeling about something. That's what our mind wants to do. And then our mind and our ego will use that uncomfortable feeling to beat the shit out of ourselves, right? Here we go again. Another way that we use our practice to beat the shit out of ourselves is that the uncomfortable feelings come up, and we're like, oh, well, I really haven't gotten anywhere, and I'm really not conscious. And I'm doing all these practices, but I feel like shit, and I should just stop, and what's wrong with me, and I'm doing it wrong, and all that. So stop doing that, because that's what we generally naturally want to do. But what we can do instead is continue to allow the possibility that this is energy, these are emotions, stop attaching to them, stop putting stories behind them, allow them to move, allow them some space, give yourself some space, give yourself some time, and engage with some practices that will help you move that energy, such as shaking and big breathing, sighing, making sound, jumping up and down, having a good cry. These can help to move that sort of energy so that you're not so stuck with it and then beating your shit out of yourself. So, okay. So I think I gave you a few really good things, which are all about how you can stop using your practice to beat the shit out of yourself. Yeah. And that would be my, I'm going to rename the title of this thing. Now we know what the title is. Stop using your practice to beat the shit out of yourself. And engage from a place of childlike wonder and curiosity, gratitude and joy, to stop engaging in the shame and the guilt and the blame, to allow the cycles of the seasons and your own personal cycles to be in effect and be okay with those things, and to give yourself a break and understand what's really going on here, and that you're doing amazing, beautiful, often very deep, very profound, can be very intense work when you start engaging with physical, energetic, spiritual practices. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give me lots of hearts and stars and whatever the else there is, and comment and let me know if this resonates with you, if this is helpful, if this is something that you want more of, and if you have anything that you want to tune in about, then you can please message me here, or you can email me, kat@katherineberg.com, and we can continue these conversations. I will be here next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And until then, you are amazing and beautiful. Thank you for showing up and doing the work, even in the midst of all of the beating the shit out of yourself that you're trying to do. And I love you. Bye.